Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Game Changer. I'm Mariam Zia. When we talk about Pakistan-China relationship, of course, we know that both countries have historic as well as strategic ties. Both countries established diplomatic relations in 1950s, and in 2013, of course, after the launch of CPAC, both countries have become strategic partners, and the relationship is based on mutual trust as well as shared interest in the region as well. In today's program, we will be exploring strategic, political, as well as education, cultural, different areas of cooperation in which Pakistan and China are cooperating. And we will also be looking upon the recent visit of Chinese Foreign Minister to Pakistan. He visited Pakistan on invitation of Foreign Minister Mr. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, and in which in this important visit, different important issues of national as well as global importance were discussed. We will be talking about those issues. We will be talking about CPAC, progress on CPAC as well, and how this is going to impact region and beyond. To discuss this and more, I'm joined in the studios by Mr. Shehjar Khan, who is expert in international affairs, and with him we are joined by Mr. Humayun Khan, who is senior analyst and expert in international affairs. We are joined online by Dr. Sain Javed, who is economist and senior analyst. A very warm welcome to you all in the program. Before we start our program, we will be looking upon the recent presser by Foreign Minister Mr. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, and what he says. We will be listening to that, and after that I'll be coming to my first question.
Pakistan and China have always supported each other on issues of core national interest in both bilateral engagements with other countries and in multilateral forums. We greatly appreciate China's steadfast support on all our issues of core national interests, including the principled position on the Jammu and Kashmir dispute. Pakistan and China have celebrated 72 years of friendship. This partnership has grown over the years and enjoys consensus across generations and political divides. Our two countries have stood with each other for decades and would continue to stand with each other in the decades to come. We also agreed on the importance of the China-Pakistan economic corridor and reiterated our abiding commitment to its high-quality development. As you are aware, that this year we mark the completion of a decade of the China-Pakistan economic corridor. We will continue to work together with all stakeholders for peaceful, stable, prosperous, and united Afghanistan.
Of course. So, Foreign Minister Mr. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, along with Foreign Minister of China, Mr. Qin Gang, was addressing this joint presser, and we will be talking about this. So, Mr. Shehjar, let me start with you. Of course, this was an important visit, and this also included the fourth round of Foreign Minister level Pakistan-China strategic dialogue, and it was held on, in Islamabad last week. So, how do you see importance of this important diplomatic engagement between Pakistan and China?
So, Mariam, this was basically a follow-up to the Prime Minister's visit to China in November 2022. So, this time around, the Chinese Foreign Minister basically came for a strategic dialogue, and this was the fourth one of this nature. And this dialogue covered a host of areas that are very essential to Pakistan and China's diplomacy, and that covered like economic areas, that also covered defense and security areas, cooperation on Afghanistan, progress on CPEC related projects, investments, and also cultural and people-to-people ties. So this was a very comprehensive dialogue, and a lot of positive aspects of this dialogue came forward after this briefing that you just showed us. And Pakistan also basically showed a commitment to the One China policy.
Of course.
And at the same time, China also showed commitment for Pakistan's territorial integrity. And basically, both countries showed their long-standing interests that are common, a lot of historical and economic cooperation. So I personally think it was a very positive way forward.
Of course. Mr. Humayun, when we talk about China, of course, it has remained important strategic ally of Pakistan. How do you see the current political engagement between the two countries, the current state of relations between the two countries?
I think it would be sort of like, in a way, like politically speaking, undermining the relationship by saying has always been. Just to
Of
give
course.
my understanding, you're absolutely right what you're saying. This relationship is unprecedented in the history of any nation, except the other precedent which has been given in terms of a relationship between any two other countries is United States of America and Israel. China-Pakistan relationship has withstood the test of time for decades and decades and decades. We were the first Muslim country to have recognized China, and China has supported Pakistan up till now on almost every particular issue that we have of concern. So this is like a trajectory of relationship which started in 50s and it's going up and up and up. And CPEC is basically one of the aspect of this relationship where we used to have people to people relationship, military to military, government to government. Now it's economic to economic. So in this trajectory, now it's called all-weather strategic partnership and cooperation that we have signed with each other. It's called higher than mountains, deeper than ocean. This is
And sweeter than honey. Of
sweeter
course.
than honey, stronger than steel. These are the cliches which basically depict the relationship. So this recent visit of Chinese State Councilor and Foreign Minister was also depicting the all-weather strategic cooperation between these two countries, where this is his first visit as a foreign minister
Of
to any
course.
other country, and as Yar was mentioning, it was a follow-up of Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif in November and Army Chief General Asim Muni's visit to China a couple of weeks ago. So this and all before that was also DG ISI's visit to China as well. So this shows that whenever there is a change of command in Pakistan or in China, the trajectory of relationship says that you have to visit, or the first port of entry, that as they said diplomatically, is between these two countries. So both countries have not only as a figure of speech shown to each other, but also they have given each other the due importance within the region. China gave Pakistan the most important strategic position within South Asian region and
And the
outside.
cooperation between Pakistan and China has always remained that of win-win situation between the two countries.
Absolutely. It's an alliance. It's like a win-win situation. There is no zero-sum game between
Of
each other.
course.
We want to have cooperation on Afghanistan. We have cooperation on Indian Ocean. We have cooperation on military-to-military relationship. And now, as the flagship project of Belt and Road Initiative, which is President Xi Jinping's flagship project,
Of course.
we are working on extending CPEC to Afghanistan, to Central Asia, and then the
To the region and
interconnectivity.
beyond.
Absolutely.
And we will be talking later in the program about BRI and its flagship program CPEC as well. But Dr. Hasnain, when we look at the recent developments in the region, how would you access the recent developments or the recent cooperation and high-level delegation visits between Pakistan and China?
See, and there is a core issue was Afghanistan, and one of the most important issue was to bring the peace in Afghanistan and settle down the position of Afghanistan, whether it is under the Quad or under the I2U2. It has to, I mean, fix it by any means. So both sides understand the importance of maintaining the peace and stability in South Asia, as they are going to invest further more $59 billion in the CPAC. So in South Asia, a need for the resolution for all the outstanding disputes. And then, as a Pakistan side briefed the Chinese side on the latest development of the situation in Jammu and Kashmir. Of
Of
course,
course.
that is another integral part of Pakistan, which has to resolve, but territorially or geographic proximity is also involved. So, stressing the peace and stability in Afghanistan is vital for the socio-economic development, connectivity, and prosperity in the region. Both sides called all stakeholders to work together for the peaceful, stable, prosperous, and united Afghanistan, which would be firm, combat terrorism, and live in harmony and the neighbor. So, which is very much important. And second part is to help the Pakistan, how China revived the bailout packages, which is about the recent one is the China gave 1.3 billion, and then is the installment of the 500 million. That's the other part. But the total the statement by the Bilawal Bhutto Zardari conclude this whole visit in this capsulation, like there is no bias whatsoever is in the so-called debt sustainability, That trap concerned that the propagated Chinese investment in financial sport is keeping with the tradition of our unique time-tested friendship. And then there is a very important discussion which is going to have is the China-Pakistan agreed to extend BRI to Afghanistan. So I will further talk on this issue. That is very important. This is the core and hub of this whole discussion that how BRI to Afghanistan to maintain the peace so that the Quad's intentions and ITU to where the Israel and India and on the
Of
other way
course.
America and the UK have created much turbulence for the Afghanistan. So we need a peace in Afghanistan. So China
Of
wanted to
course,
have the
but
industrialization within Afghanistan.
of course, but when we look at the region, like you mentioned, that situation in Kashmir as well as this current situation that we witness in Afghanistan, the instability in Afghanistan is impacting the region. What do you think that China is, the role of China in all this situation, and how Pakistan and China are cooperating in this specific area?
See, you have seen, as being observer, as being participant observer, or the neutral observer, you have seen the Shanghai Corporation.
Of course.
How India behaved to Pakistan. Have you seen that? It was a joint venture. Of course, 8 members were there, and other observers are also there. And but India behaved particularly to Pakistan in a very pathetic way, in a very bad manners. Never been, precedented in any way. So they have a biggest threat. I talked to some of the justice in India, and I have talked to so many other people in a different programs. So this says they have the biggest threat to China. So they are saying that the China have the ambition to expect ambition of expansionism. They are expanding their territories to Pakistan. They are expanding their territories to everywhere else, and they want to jeopardize and under the trade. Trade debt and as they did to Sri Lanka. So it is very much they are in fear. They are in much pressure that Chinese, emerging power as an economy. They are, daring, and they are so fearing about that. So we have to have focus on these issues that we are the
Of course.
biggest partner of China and the flagship program, and they are
Of course.
trying to sabotage this program, and we have to carry it out anyway. And the Pakistan military is the only source to cover this whole issue. Otherwise, and the internal issues which are, against the military, they are
Right.
creating the turbulence and creating the fifth generation warfare.
Right, right. So, Mr. Shehya, of course, the strategic location of Pakistan is also very important, and we are witnessing the growing influence of China in the region as well. How do you see these developments, and how you see the strategic partnership of Pakistan and China evolving over the years and in the future as well, keeping in mind these recent developments?
So, Mariam, China and Pakistan are cooperating a lot to basically expand the CPEC to neighboring countries as well. And this has been going on since the last few years. And with various heads of state, including Iran, including Afghanistan, this has been discussed in length. So, the key hurdle when it comes to expansion of CPEC to Central Asia, that is basically Afghanistan. So, one of the key areas that was discussed in great depth was the security situation and the political stability that is required in Afghanistan. So, in terms of countering terrorism and security related issues, Pakistan and China basically discussed a lot of areas in detail. Other than that, they also reiterated the support for Afghanistan when it comes to the humanitarian angle, the economic support, and they also reiterated that Afghanistan cannot be economically stable if most of its financial assets are basically withheld by the Western stakeholders.
Of course.
So they all basically collectively reiterated that those frozen assets should also be given to the people of Afghanistan, so more development and more economic stability can be brought.
Of course. So, Mr. Omaya, how do you see these strategic partnership between Pakistan and China influence the current geopolitical dynamics in the region, in South Asia and beyond?
You know, right now we're discussing about the world being divided into, again, bloc politics. Having said that, Pakistan has time and again shown its inclination towards having relationship with all the bigger power, but we have already made it clear that we are very close friends with China, and that is also based on international law, international principle of equality, distribution of power, resources, and within that framework, we decided to join China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which was part of the Belt and Road Initiative. Within that framework, now we would like to extend that. We would like to extend the South Asia, Central Asia connectivity. We would like to help Afghanistan, which is like a brotherly country since ages. Like we can't choose our neighbors, so now they are our neighbor. We need to find out solution for whatever the problems they are facing. So within that framework, Pakistan has offered to extend China-Pakistan Economic Corridor and ask the Afghan side to gain benefit from that, because we have expertise. We have almost now 8 to 9 joint working group which is working on energy, infrastructure, transport, Gawada, socio-economic development, science and technology. We have a long-term plan of CPEC as well. We have industrial cooperation. We also have science, agriculture, which is one of the most famous, important aspect of our cooperation. So Afghanistan can benefit from this thing, but because we already have infrastructure there, we have Gawada port there, we have other related infrastructure. So if Afghanistan wants to join, China and Pakistan collectively help Afghanistan in order to have what Shaya was mentioning, mitigate their security concern, mitigate their economic concern, mitigate their socio-economic deprivation that they have faced for last 50, 60, 70 years. So I think this is a great opportunity for Afghanistan to become part of this endeavor, and then it won't be China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, it would be BRI, which would be extended from CPEC to Afghanistan.
Of course, we will be talking more about China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. Back, we are talking about strategic partnership between China and Pakistan. So Mr. Shijar, when we talk about China-Pakistan relationship, of course after 2013 the launch of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor has impacted not only the bilateral relations between the two countries but the region as well, and it has remained a centerpiece for connectivity in the region. How do you see the progress of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor so far and the geopolitical implications of this project as well?
So Mariam, in this particular dialogue, the progress on CPEC was discussed in great detail. So there are like a few infrastructure projects that are being discussed.
And 10 years of launch of CPEC was also celebrated by both countries.
So the 10 years launch of CPEC was celebrated. And it was like discussed in detail on the key infrastructure projects that were pending, and the progress on those were discussed. So these very important projects like the ML1 railway system, that was discussed in detail. Other than that, progress on the Karachi Circular Railway, that was also brought under discussion. Other than that, Gwadar Port, which is also known as the crown of CPEC. So the progress in regards to the Gwadar International Airport and the Pakistan-China Friendship Hospital. So these are the few infrastructure projects that were discussed. Other than that, there is this like growing perception that has been propagated by Western capitals that CPEC is basically China's way of indulging into debt trap diplomacy. So both sides basically reiterated this very openly to the international audience, that this is a framework of mutual cooperation and mutual agreement, and it has nothing to do with any debt trap diplomacy. So Pakistan basically very clearly stated its position that this perception is wrongly being enforced by the Western capitals, and China has always been there for Pakistan's support, even when Pakistan is going through a very tough financial situation right now. Even today I was like looking at the news and reading some international articles in which there is now this discussion that even if IMF doesn't sign the staff level agreement with Pakistan, Pakistan will look towards China to basically come up with a framework in which this economic cooperation can be extended and this whole financial situation can be fixed in cooperation with China.
Right, and in current economic situation of the country, when we talk about this recent visit, how do you view the importance and the timing of visit of Chinese foreign minister to Pakistan? Because this was in the same dates that that foreign minister came back from India after attending SCO. So how do you view
I
all
think
this?
this was absolutely very important in terms of substance and also in terms of optics. Optics, because Chinese foreign minister was also part of the Shanghai Cooperation
Of course.
Organization, of which it's a founding member and it's still a leading force in SCO. And it's also a country which supported Pakistan for its membership in SCO, and both the foreign ministers were in India. And after that, coming to Pakistan was also an optics as well as the substance, in a way, telling the world that we give so much importance, that now we are at a part of a multilateral organization, and then we choose to come to a country with which we have all weather strategic cooperation and partnership. So coming here was like the fourth trilateral dialogue on the foreign ministers level, which Shahyar has mentioned and Dr. Isnan also mentioned. This was also showing to the world that how much importance China gives to Pakistan. So the entire gamut of relationship was discussed. A review of the CPEC progress was discussed. Military to military cooperation was discussed. Security cooperation was discussed. International issues were discussed. And
Of course.
Pakistan also reiterated its position, as Shahyar was earlier mentioned. We believe that it's one China policy. It's how China Sea belongs to China. We also believe in Taiwan, Xinjiang issue, and there was a unanimity of view on almost everything. And on the other side, the Chinese side also said the same thing, that we believe CPEC is there for the benefit of the people of the region. Also, they believe in the resolution of Kashmir dispute on the international
course.
law and UN resolution. So this was one of the most important aspects, that the foreign minister is visiting the Chinese State Councilor and the foreign minister for the first time to any country, and he chooses to come to Pakistan.
Of course.
Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif was in China in November. He was the first head of the state who visited and met President Xi Jinping and the leadership after he was the elected as the third time. So these theatrics and the optics basically tells that these two countries give each other too much importance, not only in South Asia but all international relation issues that we faces on daily basis.
Of course. Dr. Hassan, when we talk about the optics, of course, like Mr. Humayun mentioned, that optics were great, and we know that China has remained an important economic partner for Pakistan as well. How do you see the investments made by Chinese companies in Pakistan have impacted Pakistan's economy so far, and how do you see the future of the economic relations between the two countries?
See, before talking about the, trade input by China or FDI by the China, I just wanted to, unveil the reference of Washington criticism of China's investment partner on Pakistan. So, the Foreign Minister Qin Gang says, so for those who make false suggestions about debt trap, I suggest that you ask those people what have they done for the national development and well-being of the Pakistani people. That is very much important statement for the whole of the trade partnership. So leading the investors in the Pakistan in the first 5 months in 20 to 22, before that, in the 4 years of the PTI government, there was a lot, much investment go back just because of the wrong policies given by them, because of the 70% of the power project companies which are working in the uranium and other areas, and they are doing so well. So just with the 50-50% of the partnership and some of the not understanding the GDP and Kaichek index, because there is a financial change. There is a GDP and there is a Kaichek index. They are working in the Kaichek index, which has the calculation of the different area, and the GDP calculated in a different area. So they have said, and Abdul Razak Dawood have stated miscalculated statement to the word that we have to work and revisit the whole project. So they have given a big dent to all of the FDIs. Now, what we have done is now is contributing is 23.83 million percent, and it is about 105.5 million to its FDI from 2013 to 2022. So volume is increasing day by day, and 50 billion, 63 billion were there. But in agriculture products, now I have seen that they want a boiled meat, then the fisheries, then the dairy and the other products they must need, and they are moving to the different ways. And 59% of the more development in the different areas are working on. So bilateral trade between the two countries will cross 550 billion with the next 5 years. I'm
Right.
telling
And
you,
what
very
sectors are
calculation.
right? And what sectors are going to be most impacted by these investments? And what about the status of FDI when we talk about the investment opportunities coming from China to Pakistan?
Yeah, very important question. Yes, they are going to develop the nine economic zone, and as I told you, they have the developed the spice farming area in Pakistan, in the Bostan area, and then they are going to invest in the rice, simam seeds, pine, nuts, textiles, seafood, and other agriculture products. So, textile product is very much good, and but they are giving the input. So, as our cost goes down, one of the major problems facing by China is their cost of labor is increasing day by day, and they have the maximized labor cost. So now the Pakistan is much needed area, and our labor wage cost is much lower than them, because now they are onto the international standard, and their quality is up to the international standard. So now they wanted to negotiate with us. Of course, you scratch my back and I scratch your back. This is not higher than the sea and over. This is all good, and honey is very much important. But uh, 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 the nation has all their own interests, and we have to revolve around the interests. You scratch my back, I scratch your back. So next important thing in the trade partnership, China needs our support in the very important area is retreated Pakistan firm support of China on all its issues, including one China policy. There is a trade policy. There is a Taiwan, Tibet, Xinjiang, Hong Kong, and of course Humayun said all these things. But we are committed to remain engaged with the China to propose a South cooperation Asia in the light of the emerging global concern like human, including climate change. The Pakistan side support the Global Development Initiative and the Global Security Initiative to forward. And one of the very important is the GDI and GSI bilaterally and multilateral fora, which is very much an important. So two sides are ready to advance cooperation in GDI. So these two important
Of
things I'm
course.
emphasizing: GDI and
Right.
GSI, bilateral multilateral fora, and the Pakistan side welcome the Global Civilization Initiative proposed by the Chinese side. And then later in the part, I'll talk definitely about
Right, right,
the China
right, right. So, Mr.
time in
Humayun,
the
of
previous
course,
part.
when we talk about Pakistan-China relations, infrastructure projects and development has always remained very important, right? So, what is the progress of latest infrastructure initiatives between the two countries, and how they are going to enhance connectivity as well as the trade volume between the two countries?
Absolutely, this is very important, as you were mentioning earlier, that this is the 10th anniversary of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, and we will be celebrating that with a lot of fanfare. The first our emphasis was on infrastructure development, and that was energy cooperation and road and other infrastructure related thing. So we have fiber optics, which we laid down from Khunjrab to Islamabad and from Islamabad to Karachi. We are also part of Chinese new global positioning system. We call it GPS, and that's another version on the Chinese side. We have built a massive road infrastructure where we have the east, north and south connectivity from Gawada up till Khunjrab Pass. KKH is being upgraded. Then up till now we have 10,800 megawatt of electricity installed in our system. This, and mind you, this was the time when we started this cooperation, and the emphasis was on energy cooperation, because Pakistan was losing almost 1 to 2% of GDP because we had less energy and our demand was more. So with the help of Chinese investment and Chinese cooperation, we have built this massive infrastructure in which up till 2030 our energy needs are covered. Then we have created a lot of thousands of jobs, not only in these sector but also in infrastructure and also in Gwadar as well. We are almost on the verge of developing the biggest international airport there. We have friendship center, we have hospital, we have skill development thing. So in a nutshell, CPEC has basically revived the economy of Pakistan. And then this is also another important aspect of China-Pakistan economic cooperation, was the Chinese have always helped us. Yar has mentioned, Dr. Hasnan has already mentioned. This time, when we are facing this dire economic situation, Chinese has given us a rollover of the debt that we owe them. Not only that, they have parked around $2 billion in safe deposit in State Bank. And as of now, we're also negotiating if the IMF deal, which has become a little more politicized than the economic thing, if it doesn't work out, because Pakistan has always almost fulfilled every demand that they have. And now they're asking for more demands. But nonetheless, if it doesn't go through, the existing network and communication between China, Pakistani other friends, including Saudi Arabia and Qatar and UAE, we will be able to get out of this economic mess that we have gotten ourselves in last 4 or 5 years. So that is also very important, that China has come up again for your help when your country was suffering economically. And if IMF deal doesn't go through, we will have consequences. We will suffer in an international monetary institution. But if Chinese and other friendly countries pitch in, we will be able to mitigate the damage, and we will be sail through this tough time that we have facing.
Of course. And China has always played an important role when we talk about economic prosperity of Pakistan. We will be talking more about that, but after a short. We are talking about Pakistan-China relations and its importance for the region and beyond. When we talk about Pakistan-China relations, of course, we know that China has a significant role and importance in when we talk about manufacturing sector specifically. How do you see that Pakistan and China can contribute or collaborate specifically in industrial sector and for technology transfer as well? And are there some initiatives that are under progress?
So, Mariam, very interesting question, because in this dialogue that happened a few weeks ago, one of the key areas that were discussed was the framework on industrial cooperation.
Of course.
So, as we all already know, and Humayun Sahab also mentioned in detail, this was supposed to be the second aspect of the CPEC. After completing all the infrastructure projects, there was like this talk on basically moving most of
on industrialization
of Pakistan, and like bringing a lot of like industrial capacity from China to Pakistan, and in that framework a lot of special economic zones are there, and some of them have already been they're like already functional, and China has already started working on them. So these are the key areas in which like a lot of discussion is being taking place. So in that terms, there are like various areas that are being...
Are there some joint ventures when we talk about industrialization specifically?
Yes, there's like a lot of cooperation going on the IT sectors. Then China has already established a lot of like skills development institutes as well. So that is like building the capacity of the Pakistani labor market on international standards that are required for Chinese to work in like Chinese industries over here. Other than that, a lot of cooperation in the agricultural sectors are already underway. A lot of cooperation in terms of like textiles and development of chips is also like being discussed. And obviously a lot of trade-related cooperation when it comes to moving goods from Gwadar to through the CPEC to China as well as Central Asia. So that's like being discussed right now.
Right. So how do you see that these joint ventures and different initiatives have impacted the economic landscape of Pakistan?
So this has already had a very positive aspect, because a lot of like regional countries are like seeing the benefits of this cooperation on regional integration, and they want to be a part of this whole cooperation as well. And we know very lately China has played a very key role in resolving a lot of like regional conflicts that were brewing, that had been like going on since decades in Pakistan. And one of the key example is the rapprochement between Saudi Arabia and Iran. So this like kind of shows that even Saudi and Iran are basically saying that there's no benefit in conflict, and there's like a lot more benefit to be had if there's like more economic integration and economic cooperation in this region. And as soon as these like regional issues are resolved, as well as the whole security situation in Afghanistan, we see a lot more cooperation in the region overall.
Of course. So, Mr. Omayo, when we talk about Pakistan-China relations, counter-terrorism efforts are also very important, and China and Pakistan share a border as well. So, how do you see the collaboration on security and defense sector between the two countries?
I think this is also one of the most unique relationship in a way that our our basis of relationship started in terms of having a border agreement with each other in 1962. Before that, diplomatic relation was already there, and then since then there's a trajectory of defense cooperation up till now, and then it's moving on a higher trajectory every day. We have joint cooperation in missile technology. We have joint cooperation in manufacturing tanks. We have joint cooperation in frigates, in Navy, Air Force, Army, strategic cooperation in nuclear technology as well. So there's an entire gamut of this relationship which focuses on defense cooperation. Other than that, both the countries are part of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. We're also part of this mechanism which is called Regional Anti-Terrorism Mechanism, which is called RATS, through which we have joint cooperation on counter-terrorism. But we also have a bilateral mechanism, of which we just had this foreign ministers strategic
right. So are there
summit.
some joint counter-terrorism strategies that have been adopted by the both
Absolutely,
countries?
absolutely. Like we exchange information on most of the issues. Border management is something which has just recently come up, because after this bilateral meeting, we also had a trilateral meeting with the Afghan interim foreign minister. He was here. So border management, counter-terrorism, and defense cooperation was discussed in that particular meeting. So our focus is to have maritime security. Our focus is to have border infiltration, be it drug related, be it human trafficking, be it terrorism related. So there's an overwhelming emphasis on how to manage these borders within these South Asian nations and also cooperate at the same time.
Of course. Dr. Hassan Javed, when we talk about Pakistan-China relations, CPAC remains a key factor between the two countries. So how do you see the future trajectory of relations between the two countries, specifically in the context of CPAC and its impact on the bilateral relations and on the regional economic integration as well?
So this time around, it would be the second round rather the third round of the CPAC. So they are more focused on the other part rather than the infrastructure and power. So they are going on the manufacturing area, which is very much important, and always and already I mean emphasizing on that area. It's a commercial consular Pakistan embassy in Beijing. The Ghulam Qadir invited a top Chinese enterprise to develop industrial parks in Pakistan, encouraging investment and relocation in export-oriented efficiency, seeking in labor-intensive sector. And then is China is largest producer and exporter of industrial equipment and construction machinery, which can also be developed Pakistan as a next hub of Chinese manufacturing. Moreover, we are both working together in the different parts. Of course, in the military strategic area, are most of the military personnel going there in the different areas of China, and we are working in the different missile manufacturing
Right.
areas and the war strategic areas. So China has delivered two fights to Pakistan Navy, completing a four-warship deal link in 2018 amid deepening military cooperation between two nations. And then also, uh, uh, as I told you earlier, that Pakistan is working on the CPAC. And of course, they are holding the talks of the security between the Taliban and how they extend the Belt and Road Initiative to Afghanistan and potentially drawing the
Of course.
billion of the dollar fund infrastructure project in the sanctions hit country. And then they are also urge Afghan aid completely linked from the political considerations. So there are so much of the working in the CPAC and acceleration of the
Right.
CPAC and inviting other countries to the CPAC. That is the biggest area to work.
Of course, that remains the biggest area. Lastly, tell us about the future trajectory of relations between Pakistan and China, specifically when we talk about education and cultural exchanges between the two countries and people-to-people contacts between the two countries.
So, Mariam, according to China's Global Civilization Initiative, that like focuses more on how civilizations basically accept diversity, how they develop people-to-people contacts, and how they basically respect each other's cultures and like values and a lot of like societal values as well. So in that case, a lot of like cooperation is going on between Pakistan and China, especially in the terms of education. There are like over 60,000 Pakistani students that are like going and studying in Chinese universities in the fields of technology, in terms of like medical sciences, and there are like a lot of other cooperation taking place as well. Initially, when you asked the question, you basically asked me like, where do you see all of this cooperation going? In terms of like the financial sector, I see a very important development going on in which a lot of like analysts and international financial experts are basically seeing AIIB, which is the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, as becoming a sort of a replacement for IMF for a lot of countries that are going through financial crises. And because now, due to the multipolarity of the world and how the bloc politics is coming on again, I see the AIIB taking a lot more initiative and a lot more expanding in its scope. Initially, AIIB was only supporting infrastructure projects.
Right, but
and now they're like expanding their scope, and Pakistan will probably be going more towards the AIIB side as well.
Of course, and this is going to enhance cooperation between the two countries. Thank you very much, Mr. Shehryar Khan, for joining us in today's program. Thank you very much, Mr. Humayun Khan, for being with us in today's program. Thank you very much, Dr. Hussain Javed, for joining us in today's program. Of course, in today's program, we discussed about the strategic partnership between Pakistan and China, and we also talked about the recent visit by Chinese Foreign Minister to Pakistan on the invitation of Foreign Minister Mr. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, in which in this program, of course, we discussed about the strategic, political, as well as economic aspects of the relationship between the two countries and how both countries are collaborating not only on the issues of national interest but of regional and global issues of interest as well. And both countries have reaffirmed their firm resolve to cooperate further in different fields for a win-win cooperation, not only for the two countries but for the region and beyond as well. That's all from Game Changer tonight. Take care. Allah Hafiz.